Hi everyone, welcome to the regular season finale of the Register Guard Prep Football Press Box. I'm Ben Schorzman, Register Guard high school sports reporter. Welcome, this is it. We've made it a long way. 9 long weeks and things are for the most part settled. The playoffs are nigh and things are getting good. This is really where things are going to start getting fun. So let's jump right into things and where they stand. Let's start with the teams that are in. We know for sure Sheldon is in the playoffs. They're ranked number 6, which is a little low for them, but at the same time they're solidly in even if they lose on Friday against North Medford at home. Shouldn't do that. They should win the Southwest Conference for the first time since 2012. They're in. The Irish are golden, looking at 1, maybe 2 home games in the Class 6A playoffs. Willamette, they're also in. They're going to sneak in. They play Grants Pass in a de facto game for number 2 for the second place seed in the Southwest Conference, but no matter what, they're in the playoffs. They could potentially fall to 4th in the conference, but they're good to go. So the Wolverines, first year under Josh Wolfram, in as well. So very good for them. They get at least one more game, most likely on the road though. Looking down the list, the third team that for sure is in is Springfield, coming off a really tough loss last week in a Midwestern League title bout against Crater, who jumped them to number 2. But the Millers, they finish up with Marist, who at the end of the season, we all thought was going to be, the game. Legitimately, I was talking about this earlier, the game that we all thought would be for all the marbles. Turns out Marist on the downward slope this year. They still have a lot to play for with some seniors and maybe to trip up the Millers once again, who are banged up, but it'll be a tough one for them. We'll talk about the banged up issues with Springfield a little bit later though. Moving on to the iffy, what I might call living on a prayer category. We really have one team in this, and that is Churchill. The Lancers at 5-3. They've had a great season, but they are probably going to miss the playoffs. They have a tough task ahead of them. Only top 3 teams in the Midwestern League go, and right now the Lancers are sitting tied for 3rd with Ashland, but they don't hold the tiebreaker because they lost to the Grizzlies. So they're looking. What they really need to happen is Ashland to lose, and they play last place Eagle Point, tough one. And then the second thing that they need to go right is they need to beat number 2 and undefeated Crater on the road on Crater Senior Night. So tough task, and hey, if the Lancers pull it off Friday night, then they most definitely deserve to make the playoffs. That'd be crazy, bonkers, whatever you want to say. That's what it would be. And then looking at who's out, like I mentioned, Marist, they just can't do it. They don't hold the tiebreaker with either Ashland or Churchill, who will finish ahead of them. So Marist is out a year after making the semifinals, which is color me one that did not think that was going to happen. So tough year for them to end, and they get Springfield, who is, like I had mentioned, a little bit of a walking wounded. Nick Assam, their Defensive Player of the Year last year in the Midwestern League, broken hand playing quarterback, filling in for injured Trevor Watson last week against Crater in the 4th quarter. Watson injured his side, sat out most of the 4th quarter with the ice bag on it. He's doubtful for Friday night as well. Dave Heiberger said he's 50-50, 50%. Most likely he'll play, but definitely not on defense. So they're down 5 kids in their secondary as well. So Miller's kind of limping into the finish line here. Could still finish top 4 in 5A, earn themselves a couple home games in the playoffs should they heal. Let's move on to the definitely out category. And in this category, we have Thurston, who is coming off a victory last week, so they're 1-7. That said, they play at South Medford. Tough game for them on the road to wrap things up, but they were eliminated weeks ago. South Eugene also eliminated a few weeks ago. They're at Roseburg, and that's a winnable game considering Thurston nipped the Indians last week, so a winnable game for them. And North Eugene, obviously, with the independent schedule, they're out. They lost to number 5 Redmond last week. They're on the road at St. Helens, which most likely is playing for maybe that last 5A's playoff spot. So Lions have a lot to going for them in their home finale. Again, it'll be another measuring stick, though, for the Highlanders, who can't argue that this has been a great season for them to end things on. So to end the independent schedule and move back into the Midwestern League next year, good for them and Rick Raish's first year. So we'll see what they can do next year with a full year under their belt leading up to that. And just a couple quick hitters real quick. It is playoffs in Class 4A. A couple teams that are doing play-ins this weekend. We have Siuslaw, which finished, I believe, third in the Far West League behind North Bend and Marshfield. Siuslaw is at Junction City. And so the Tigers can get back into the playoffs like last year, or maybe the Vikings shake things up. And then the other one is Sweet Home at Marshfield. Marshfield also fell a little bit from where they were at. They lost in the Civil War last week to North Bend, kind of pushing them into that play-in game as well. But yeah, that wraps up the playoff picture at this point. A lot of things will be finalized after this week, and we'll know early Saturday morning, Sunday, where teams are going next week, and more than half of our teams will be eliminated, and we'll dive right into the playoffs. See you next week for a special playoff edition of the Press Box. But until then, check back on our website Friday night for the finale coverage, and you can follow me on Twitter, Ben Schorzman_RG. Thank you, and tune in next week.